Hello, welcome to my second English video on Jujutsu Kaisen manga series. In this series, I'm gonna explain Jujutsu Kaisen manga right after the end of the season 4, aka Calling Game arc. In this video, I'm explaining the beginning of the greatest fight in Jujutsu history. The fight of the strongest sorcerer in history versus the strongest sorcerer of today. Ryumen Sukuna versus Gojo Satoru. So if you're interested in Jujutsu Kaisen or generally mangas and animes, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I'm gonna drop a new video in this manga series every single week. The chapters that are gonna be explained in this video is now shown in the screen, and without further ado, let's get started. At the end of the previous episode, we just witnessed that Gojo Satoru smashed an enhanced 200% hollow purple at the face of Sukuna, and he destroyed the entire Shinjuku district. A decisive move that gives Gojo Satoru the advantage at the beginning of the fight. After meeting Gojo Satoru, Sukuna says, "So, I'm the challenger. You seem really pleased with yourself for only landing a surprise attack. Compared to other sorcerers, maybe you might be a little stronger, but you're still another brat that I'm gonna kick your ass. So let's get started, Gojo Satoru." And now Gojo says, "Let me ask you something. Why are you still wearing that face? Did you thought I'd hold back if you look like that? Unfortunately, for you, I've been doing some special trainings. And since you're in Megumi's body, I know I can go all out. You managed to survive death once while you were in Yuji's body. So I've been thinking, I'll worry about Megumi after killing you." And at this moment, the legendary fight officially begins. Sukuna jumps at Gojo Satoru. They land some kicks and punches, but Gojo lands on the floor and proceeds to throw Sukuna on a huge building. And after Sukuna piercing the building, Gojo Satoru runs at him, destroying the entire building that they were stepping on, throwing the remained pieces of the building at each other. That's crazy. The time they're both flowing at the air, Sukuna hits a great dismantle, which targets Gojo Satoru's neck, but Gojo Satoru can definitely dodge from these attacks, and the dismantle cuts the building behind Gojo Satoru to pieces. Sukuna slashes the building and turns it into half, just like it's a piece of watermelon or something. The piece of building that was cut off falls at the head of both Gojo and Sukuna. They go to the building and throw some stuff at each other. After that, the building officially falls off and gets completely ruined. After that, they both slowly walk out of the dust like Batman. Gojo says, "I'm gonna go ahead and pin this on you." And Sukuna says, "Who are you to say anything?" At the next part, it shows that Meimei is broadcasting Gojo vs Sukuna fight, and everyone around the world, and actually the entire Jujutsu gang, can see the fight through televisions. The Jujutsu gang starts analyzing the fight between Gojo, Satoru, and Sukuna. They say Gojo has the limitless curse technique, which makes him untouchable, and Sukuna has tried neutralizing the limitless technique using domain amplification. Yuta says it was in Mekamaru's footage. A special grade cursed spirit once used it against Gojo Sensei's limitless technique in Shibuya. Hakari says it neutralizes Gojo's domain, but how is it possible? Please listen the explanations carefully, because knowing what's actually happening in the fight makes the fight much more enjoyable and much more amazing actually. It's like my simple domain, a little more developed. It neutralizes by using a domain that doesn't grant a curse technique in order to pour an opponent's curse technique into an empty space. The thing you need to keep in mind is that domain application is very different from domain expansion. As Kusakabe explained right now, domain amplification, that its focus is not attacking, its focus is negating the influence of opponent's curse technique, which is, in this case, it's Gojo Satoru's limitless. Higuruma says, "But I do have a sense of how it works." Angel says the drawback of using domain amplification is that you can't use it together with a domain expansion. It appears that Sukuna is not an exception in this case. Considering that there is a way way for Sukuna to defeat the limitless curse technique aside from domain amplification, Gojo Satoru is gonna lose this fight. Miwa says, if that's the case, why isn't Sukuna expanding his own domain? Using a curse technique is very difficult immediately after using a domain expansion. Then shouldn't Sukuna get into a clash of domains with Gojo right now? Kirara says, you make it sound simple, but depending on the result, the fight would be over. And here, Yuji asks, can a domain's guaranteed hit even pierce Gojo Satoru's limitless technique? He hinted it would. That time a cursed spirit's domain swallowed us. He's talking about the time in season 1 that Gojo and Yuji got into Jogo's domain expansion. Ui says that could it be the case that Sukuna doubts about being able to win Gojo Satoru in a domain clash. Shoko says, given Gojo's devious personality and his 6 eyes, I doubt he'd fail to notice the thing. And if he suspected it, he would deploy his domain first. Choso here says, then probably there's not going to be a domain clash, huh? According to what Inumaki and Yuji told, I don't think Sukuna closes barriers when opening domains. Kusakabe says, what? Isn't that impossible? And Kashimo says, yes it is. Yuta and Hakari both approve. But Miwa is still asking about how is it possible. So Kusakabe shows us a great example about this. In this moment, Kusakabe wants some water from Miwa, and Miwa throws the bottle of water to Kusakabe. Kusakabe says, oh, wait a minute. I asked for the water, not the bottle. But why did you give me the bottle with itself? Because you cannot give the water to me without the bottle. Actually, opening a domain without a barrier is like giving someone water without a bottle. I don't know how good I explained, but I truly hope that you understood. Kusakabe continues and says, is it possible to hold a water without a vessel, or aka a bottle? Can you paint a picture in the air without a canvas? Do flowers bloom from a seed without root, leaf, or stem? Actually, the thing you say is like running software without having a hardware. Anyway, it's impossible. Here Maki says that Megumi's unfinished domain didn't shut the barrier, so how is it possible? Kusakabe says, I heard about this at promotion assessment, but the thing is, Megumi uses external shells like physical places as the barrier of his domain. On the other hand, Choso says, but Norito Shikamo Kenjaku did it. Sukuma resisted his attack with simple domain. Meanwhile, Tengen dispelled the domain with barrier technique from outside. The simple domain was easily demolished, but if Tsukumo Yuki had been holding a real domain expansion, the result of the fight might have been completely different. Meimei says, I doubt a clash of domains would result, because it would amount to a clash with the barrier's outer shell. But it would probably resulted in a struggle involving the curse technique's guaranteed hits inside Yuki's domain. The guaranteed hits come with the barrier, so it would have to be the barriers. Ino says, we are talking about domains like they're no big deal. They would eat up a ton of cursed energy, right? That's why you cannot just randomly open a domain. That's right, Inumaki says Gojo Satoru would not run out of cursed energy. That's because his cursed energy efficiency is out of this world, isn't it? He controls consumption through a constant self-preservation. But that assumes regular functioning, right? I'm sure it would be different if he needed to consecutively open his domains for multiple times. The thing I need to explain in this part is that why Gojo Satoru never runs out of cursed energy. It's because of his natural ability, the 6 eyes. It restores whenever Gojo Satoru's cursed energy is gone. Actually, Gojo Satoru doesn't have amazing amount of cursed energy like Yuta Okotsu, but he can restore the cursed energy right after using it. Kashimo says, about Sukuna we want to say, he's like a god. He activates cursed techniques and switches between domain amplification and domain expansions very quickly. If Gojo Satoru doesn't have the 6 eyes, Sukuna would be the best sorcerer even in cursed energy efficiency. And Yuta says he also has more overall cursed energy than me, about twice or more. So we cannot say they would not open their domains due to the lack of cursed energy. And Higuruma says, here it comes. At this moment, the greatest domain clash in Jujutsu history begins. Both Gojo and Sukuna open their domains at the exact same time. And here we have one of the best, most beautiful Jujutsu Kaisen manga panels. Just, I want you to look at this picture. It's truly phenomenal. The clash is very close. Inside Gojo's barrier, the two can't miss commands overlapped and cancelled each other out. They're fighting with both their domains open. If one takes heavy damage or one of their domains suddenly collapses, the other's guaranteed hit would strike his opponent almost immediately. That's an even match inside the barrier. So now the Jujutsu gang from the television cannot see what is actually happening inside the barrier, but they see that the barrier is having a shockingly crazy vibration. They understand that the barrier is about to collapse at any moment. The effective range of Sukuna's domain reaches outside the exterior of Gojo Satoru's domain. And now Yuji Itadori says that it's weak against attacks from outside. And at this moment we finally see that the domain's barrier officially collapses, and Sukuna's guaranteed hit immediately slashes Gojo Satoru's neck, and Sukuna officially won the first domain clash. But the battle is still far from over. Gojo Satoru uses the reverse curse technique to heal the wounds created by Sukuna's slashes. But the thing is, Sukuna's slashes won't stop inside his domain. Choso says since Sukuna doesn't close any barrier, wouldn't it be easy to run out of the domain? Hakari says if Malevolent Shrine's maximum effective area is about the size of Shibuya, then Gojo should be fast enough to get away from it. Kusakabe says in order for Gojo to use his instantaneous movement, he needs to use the limitless curse technique to compress space and coordinates. Gojo's domain was just destroyed right now, so he can't use his curse technique for a while, and that means Gojo is in a serious trouble. Sukuna with a devil smile says that, I'm glad. With regard to curse technique, you were still too far away from me. At this exact moment, Sukuna throws infinite slashes at Gojo Satoru's body, and he chops every single part of his body's flesh. If I want to explain the experience that Gojo Satoru felt right now, it's like getting hit by numerous knives at the same time. The knives that are slashing and wounding every single part of Gojo Satoru's flesh. At this moment, most of the sorcerers, including even the greatest ones, would surrender to Sukuna. But here we have the greatest sorcerer of modern era, which is still standing. Sukuna jumps at Gojo and says, "You think I'll let you run?" Throws some punches and kicks to Gojo Satoru's already wounded body. The important thing is that Gojo Satoru is fighting a hand-to-hand combat with Sukuna while having to heal the wounds with reverse curse technique, which is very difficult, and he still manages to go toe to toe with Sukuna. Sukuna says with himself that Gojo Satoru is moving very well despite having to heal his body with reverse curse technique at the same time. And Gojo says apparently Malevolent Shrine's center isn't Sukuna, it's the shrine itself, and it is a very important hint. At this moment, Gojo Satoru understands that in order to destroy Sukuna's domain, he needs to destroy the shrine, not Sukuna himself. Kusakabe says, ordinarily, concrete manifestations of innate domains don't have special meaning or function. In other words, they might as well not exist in the first place. Meimei says, if the shrine is merely a symbol of domain, then it can't be broken. There is no point of trying to break it. If Gojo Satoru, with his 6 eyes, hasn't attempted to do so, then that must be the case. At this moment, Gojo Satoru decides to definitely lock in and does a super intelligent move that decides the destination of the fight. It's actually like a brilliant move in chess. Those who play chess know what I mean. Just look at it. Despite Gojo needing to heal his wounds with reverse curse technique, he uses a simple domain. But why? The simple domain will negate the guaranteed hit while he heals himself with reverse curse technique. But the question Kusakabe has is that how can he do reverse curse technique and normal cursed energy control both at the same time? And Choso here says, but compared to a real domain, the cursed energy output for simple domain can buy time for him. When Sukuna enters the simple domain, he cannot use his slashes, aka his curse technique. And now Gojo Satoru has the time to heal himself and prepare himself for the decisive attack. But just watch what is going to happen. Gojo stopped healing with reverse curse technique. Yuta thinks with himself, is it possible that Gojo sensei has ran out of cursed energy? That's impossible. And Ino says it's impossible in ordinary circumstances, not in the fight with Sukuna. But he continued running reverse curse technique at full blast immediately after opening his domain. He's expanded twice the amount of cursed energy, all while the powerful Sukuna has been attacking him non-stop. So do you think Gojo is going to lose? And just look at the move and enjoy. Gojo hugs Sukuna as tightly as possible with his arms and legs. At this time, Yuta says, is that possible? Maybe he couldn't heal his body because he was using reverse curse technique to heal his burned out curse technique. And just watch the scene. Gojo says, nah bro, it doesn't matter how much time you slash me. I will still use curse technique reversal to bang you to the back of your shrine. Jitsushi Hanten. Akai. He uses a curse technique reversal, red technique, in order to smash Sukuna into his own shrine and destroy the domain. Bro is just oro farming with every single one of his movements. Everyone in the Jujutsu gang is like, holy fucking shit. Did he just use his reverse curse technique to heal his burnt out curse technique? That's amazing. Now everyone looks at Yuta Okotsu, which he said earlier that it's not possible to do it. Here Yuta says, I can't say it's impossible. After all, he did just use it. Burning out a curse technique with a domain is completely different from taking physical damage. If a machine is not broken but overheats, it won't function properly, so you have to wait to cool it down. Maki says, so reverse curse technique can fix something, but it can't cool it down, right? Yuta says, that's what I thought, but maybe I was wrong. Or could it be Gojo sensei may be pushing way beyond his limits? And Gojo looks at Sukuna's face and says, you can go bigger than this, right? Kusakabe screams that what the fuck is he thinking about? And here we go. The moment Sukuna tried to expand Malevolent Shrine's effective range to the maximum, Gojo opened his domain again. Ino says, look, they're doing the exact same thing. Shoko says, no, he's smarter than that. And Higuruma understands a very important point about the new domain clash. He says, did he reverse the barrier's internal and external conditions? And Hakari says, I think so. In other words, this barrier is strong against external attacks. They make an exact do-over. They do the same punches and kicks inside the domain. Gojo here witnessed a very amazing skill from Sukuna. He says, seriously, Sukuna can amplify with the domain open? That's somehow crazy. Is he used to this? His output's ramping up. Normally, during amplification, you can't use your innate techniques which are engraved in flesh. But curse techniques that have already been applied to the domain are a totally different story. After some punches and kicks and some time of hand-to-hand combat, Gojo Satoru understands that Sukuna's can't miss attack is turned off inside his domain. The reason is Sukuna is connected his back to Gojo Satoru's body. That's a point he learned from Kenjaku. Here Kenjaku explains that Unlimited Void affects everything but Gojo himself and anything touching him. I've already experienced it. In order for Sukuna to destroy Gojo's domain from the outside, he focused his effective range compared to Shibuya, thereby boosting the power. There's a binding valve for negating Malevolent Shrine's can't miss command inside Gojo's domain, further increased power outside the domain. And Sukuna survived Unlimited Void by touching Gojo himself. And once again, Gojo's domain crumbled. Sukuna here says, do you need a do-over? Here, Kusakabe says Sukuna must have changed domain's condition too. And Kashimo is nonchalantly saying that I'm the one who's going to the fight after he dies. At this moment, Gojo uses a new curse technique that we haven't seen yet. It's called Shallow Cuts. He says, I learned it as a kid, but stopped using it after mastering a domain. It's not a bad idea, right? Kusakawa says, wow, that's falling below some emotion. It's a cursed energy control program for automatically repelling anyone who touches it. There isn't much point against a complicated curse technique effect like Unlimited Void, but it's very helpful against the simple curse technique like Sukuna's slashes. And unlike the simple domain, it doesn't get stripped away. And Choso here says, but it also can't withstand domain's output without some injury. And here they go, another domain expansion. Hakori says this is gonna be huge. Kashimo says, I think he's trying to use a barrier to swallow Sukuna's entire effective range. Kusakabe says, again, I don't understand, how is he changing conditions? Meimei says, isn't it a bad move? Increasing the range of a barrier will reduce its quality. Higuruma also says, what's the point of being unbreakable from outside if he is going to lose inside? But Gojo Satoru this time does a thing that surprises everyone. Instead of creating a super huge domain barrier, he creates a super tiny one. A barrier that is even smaller than a basketball. Kusakabe again says that that's impossible. Meimei says, yes, you're saying the same thing from the beginning of the fight. Maki says, why? A barrier's external experience and size never match what's inside. Kusakabe explains, when you're enclosed in a domain, escape is rarely an option because you can't determine the boundary. Even if you could do it, barriers are strong against pressure from the inside. But there are also some limits, definitely. A concrete image is very crucial to the barrier techniques. In normal circumstances, it would be impossible to imagine shutting yourself and your opponent in a barrier where the exterior volume looks too small for one person. Choso says, but prison realm exists. Kusakabe says, exactly, that explains the thing. Gojo is making use of his experience sealed in the prison realm. What an awful learning experience that is. But I still do not understand that. Why is he changing the domain's condition every time? Listen to this part very carefully because it's a very important explanation about the concept. Kusakabe says it takes time for every sorcerer to eventually hit on the precise blend of external and internal conditions, volume and structure speed for barriers, especially domain barriers. Higuruma and Hakari, you guys are different because your domains come by default with your curse techniques. In a nutshell, conditions aren't something you ordinarily adjust every time. But Kinji, you are an exception in this case. I don't know if he adjusts from large to small because of the high difficulty. Meimei says he may have also wanted to use the large barrier to include Malevolent Shrine's effective range. And suddenly they see that the super tiny barrier is getting shattered and is hugely vibrating, just like it's gonna explode at any time. Ino says, what the fuck just happened? Yuta says, Sukuna decreased domain range to raise curse technique output. The point is that if the barrier breaks, they're in a deadlock, but Gojo's position will gradually weaken, and in this situation, he'll finally end up losing. That was what Jujutsu gang were thinking about, but the true story is different. A scene shows inside the domain that Sukuna's heart is crushed. The blood is leaking from his chest and the barrier is going to explode. The unbelievable fact is that this time, Sukuna's domain, Malevolent Shrine, has been crumbled, and Gojo finally wins this domain clash. Thanks for watching the video until the end. I'm gonna continue explaining the Jujutsu Kaisen manga Gojo vs Sukuna fight, which is probably going to come out in the next week. So if you liked my type of content, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and make a great comment for me. And if you have nothing to say, just drop a heart sticker for me to let me know that you liked the video. My duty in this channel is to make the experience of reading mangas much more enjoyable. I see you in the third video of Jujutsu Kaisen manga explanations. Until then, peace out.